Alright guys, so I'm going to run you through some basics for dyna-mesh. In the other set of videos we'll talk about cutting through geometry and adding geometry. And I may even talk briefly about adding geometry here. So in here we're going to go and grab a dyna-wax item here. You can actually, any of your 3D tools that you're using, as long as you get them in edit mode, you can actually convert them when you go into the geometry options and turn it into a dynamic mesh. So in this one, we're just going to grab the sculpt. So I'll double click on this guy. Oops, sorry, Wacom too fast for my own good with my Wacom. So you can see we have a piece of geometry here that we can play with. Now the nice thing about ZBrush, we have multiple brushes we can choose from, which pretty much trumps Sculptress. But this allows us to go in here and really paint the way that we want. In this case, we have the simple brush tool. We have our symmetry set and everything. So we can just go in here and just sculpt. But the cool thing about this, you can see it dynamically building out. And if you want to see how it does the wireframe, you'll notice immediately as you turn on the wireframe that it doesn't work quite as nice at first as you would see it on Sculptress. It can actually get darn right messy. But we can go in here. Let's use the grab tool. And what we're going to do is the move tool, excuse me. We can go and move it, and this is where you can see the relationship between this and the Sculptress starts to play a part. And you'll see at first, look at this little splatter here. You'll see at first that it looks kind of disgusting at first. You can see even a little OpenGL leakage here. But to be able to see it rebuild itself, you hit Control and just select away, and you'll see it rebuild this typology there. Which isn't too bad, just a little bit of an extra step. Not too shabby here. I don't really know what I'm making here, so I'm just making all sorts of weirdness. So we go in here, we can just play with it a little bit more. Maybe we want to add some lips on here, we can do that. But in this case, we'll just kind of mess around here. Let's do this one, crumble. I haven't got to play with this one too much. We go and we can crumble it out. We can really get some gross stuff. And then we can add in here, let's do move, or even flatten. Let's do a combination of move and flatten, so we can actually move this guy. And again, if you're familiar with ZBrush, you can see you can also categorize if you can't find a particular brush. You can find it really quickly this way. We can push things around. Let me go and rotate. We'll pull this out a little bit. And we can just see how it's dynamically increasing the mesh as we work. But at first, it's kind of sloppy. You can see it actually looks pretty sloppy. Let's go and frame this real quickly. Get a little bit of better rotations here. And then as I do Control, you go outside as if you're masking, and then you'll see it rebuild itself. And see ZBrush thinking, please do not take a dive. There we go. Cool. Sorry. Camtasia's a beast, so when it's running in the background, you'll see it's not real pretty. Notice I pushed it a little bit beyond its limits. So we can go in here and do a little bit of smoothing. And this smoothing is going to help us a little bit. And you see the ZBrush is giving me the option if I want to shift between them, which will sometimes increase your workflow. And we'll just hit OK or skip this if you want to. Okay. And I'll hit Shift, go to Smooth Mode, smooth that out over here if I want to. Go to Rotate a bit, smooth that out tip. It's not so sharp, looks a little weird. We can also go back into the Move tool and push that back if we want to. Let me make sure I'm on that tip. It's going to be kind of tricky. There we go. Get back in there, buddy. He's got an innie, not an outie. So we can go in here and mess with that. Again, I'm just messing around. And you can see the concept. And hit Control and I can deselect and you'll see it rebuild its mesh. So that's pretty much a basic rundown of how to use dyna-mesh. And again, you can use any of these items. Like if I wanted to do a sphere, you can go in here and once you have your object in here, you can say we grab a sphere. And then before you want to make them poly mesh. And once he's poly mesh, you click on geometry, and then you can see that you can change this guy into a dynamic mesh right there. There we go. So now you can pull on this guy until you pass out. And again, as you pull on it, you're going to have to hit Control, deselect, and allow him to rebuild himself. Okay. Alright. You can change your symmetry if you want to, any way that you want. Go to your settings and change it. Also, so that's a pretty quick rundown of how you can mess with dynamic mesh. What we'll do the next video we'll go into is how to cut through geometry, how to add geometry, and how that all works. It's really nice because when you initially add it, you can actually place it in, it'll put it like in a mask, you can place it into place, and then you place it where you need it, and then you can do control, deselect, and it'll rebuild according to that piece of geometry. But you still have to do a little finesse when you bring them in.